Hey everyone, welcome back to Input, man. And yes, this is going to be the customizing 101 live stream. But I'm not going to show anything yet because my camera is off facing, not facing me. So it's focused on everything that I'm going to go over, supplies and setup and the parts and all this stuff that I use. But you know how, guys, you guys know how this rolls. Real quick shout out, want to give to tformers.com, because if you're tired of the Facebook drama, then head over to tformers.com and man, just say hi. You know, if you're just tired of all the drama and all that stuff too. Also, want to always give a huge shout out to Robot Recruits over in the UK. Huge shout out to because honestly, man, Phil, man, he's shown me the love and the trust and everything else, and I really appreciate that. He's done quite a bit for the community and everything else, and I really appreciate him. So head on over there, get your Transformers needs met over in the UK, and Phil ships and Robot Recruits ships to the US as well. So if you see anything and you live in the US, send him a message and say, hey, I want this, and get it sent to your door. And yeah, and give Kapow Toys the 1-2 KO knockout punch. And Patreon, all that stuff. Link to the Patreon is down below if you guys want to support the stop motion channel and support Tales from Teltran, the podcast, and stuff like that, which is every Wednesday at 1 p.m. in the afternoon. That is right. As of right now, we are floating at Wednesday at 1 p.m. So it means tomorrow we're going to be doing a Tales from Teltran episode, and we are talking about the Transformers Headmasters anime on Tales from Teltran. Now, normally when I do these, guys, I like to give about 5 minutes of leeway time so people can zombie in through the door, kind of like they're just waking up or whatever, because you know how YouTube is. YouTube don't ever send out notifications or anything else. Plus, I get people are at work. It is middle of the afternoon, so I do understand that not everybody will be here or be able to participate or anything like that. So like I said, so because of all that, I like to give about 5 minutes leeway time. Now, if you have any questions at all whatsoever, feel free to ask away in the comments. I will answer your guys' questions as they pop up in chat. What's up, Pack? 3 live stream in the house in chat. What's up, Ben Williams? Ben Williams says, I really enjoyed that Headmasters show last week. Well, man, I appreciate you coming in, Ben, and watching it with us, or watching it with me last week, but you know what I mean. I'm going to turn my camera on and kind of give you guys kind of a shot of what we're dealing with here, what I'm dealing with. See, so today I'm going to be talking about my setup, what I use as far as equipment and everything goes, and just kind of go over and give you guys some tips and tricks and everything. And like I said, if you guys have any questions whatsoever, feel free to ask. There's no such thing as a stupid question, especially when you're trying to learn something from somebody trying to teach you something, right? Raziel Kane, what is up, my good man? He says, come on, put your pretty face on screen. Well, I assure you, the cartoon version of me is a lot sexier than I am, so I prefer to have the best representation of myself on screen. But yeah, so this is what we're dealing with, what we're looking at. Ooh, look at that, little bit of lag, but nothing crazy. But yeah, so if you guys have any questions at all, feel free to ask as I go. Pack says tips, tricks, and shits. So yep. So let's do this, man. So as you guys know, I do everything. Well, I say everything, but it's mostly like 90% of everything with an airbrush. And this airbrush right here, I can't focus the webcam. I'm using a webcam. But yeah, but this is the Iwata Eclipse HP CS. trigger activated. It's not clean. It's kind of gunked up on the inside because it's not cleaned. I was using it yesterday. I do need to clean it. But yeah, I love this airbrush. Highly recommend the airbrush. It is honestly, man, it's really, really good. Now, something I do want to state is that you get what you pay for with this stuff, guys. If you guys are looking into starting customization or anything else, especially with an airbrush, I would suggest not cheaping out on Amazon. Actually, go in, save up your money, and get a really good airbrush or a decent quality airbrush, and get an actual good compressor. There's something like I use the Iwata Ninja Jet. But yeah, the air compressor here that I use has an air control valve right here on it. So after I mix up my paints or anything and put it into here, into the cup of the airbrush, I can control the amount of air that is supplied by the air compressor, which is definitely something I would say you want. You do want some kind of air control, whether it be on the airbrush itself or on the air compressor itself. You definitely want some kind of air control. That way, you're not just stuck with controlling the flow of paint from your airbrush. Because if you pull the trigger all the way back, that's fully open. You can control, kind of, how much paint comes out and stuff with precise finger control or whatever on the trigger. And this is called the trigger up here. And so you definitely want some kind of airflow control, especially when you start getting into more advanced techniques and you want to use splatter, like a splatter technique with the airbrush. You can turn the air completely down and have an extremely low air pressure and pull the trigger all the way back. And what that does is that kind of gunks up the paint right around here on the tip of the airbrush. And then after that, you can turn the air completely back up and then just press the button to activate the air, and it'll splatter the paint, like splatter it off the tip. Now, this is a 2-step airbrush. So you do have the button that you press for air. You press it down, and then you'll pull it back to activate the paint. Really simple to use. Very, very simple. Very easy to use. Now, something I will say, the reason why you want a good quality airbrush is real simple. You want you want to have control and have it be comfortable when you use it. You don't want your hand to cramp up or anything else. And a lot of cheaper airbrushes are really difficult to use. They don't glide as smoothly as your higher end airbrushes. Now, this is not a high end airbrush. This is about the middle of the road airbrush. And this one, when I bought this one, this retailed for about $120, the airbrush it did. So you definitely want something, something that's really easy and really, really good to use. Also, moisture collector. That's what this is. You don't want the moisture and stuff that's in the air going through the line. And when I say the air, not from the air compressor, I mean in your surroundings. You don't want the moisture to build up, because if the moisture goes through the line and then goes into the airbrush, it's just going to end up splattering the paint instead of spraying the paint, which is something you do not want. So you always want to have a moisture collector. Always. Whether you live in, doesn't matter what kind of environment you live in. Trust me, you want the moisture collector. And moisture collectors are anywhere between $5 to $10. So if you're already spending anywhere between $250 to $300 for a setup, you might as well just go ahead and drop the extra $10. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get caught up on chat. Now that we've talked about airbrushes and what I use and my suggestions, I'm going to get caught up on chat. Let's see. Razville says, I thought you airbrushed by dipping a straw in paint and blowing the paint through it. The more you know. Ultra Marcus is in the house. What's going on, Ultra Marcus? He says, input is the king of customizers. I really appreciate that, buddy. There are a lot of people I feel that are way better than me, though, at this. Let's see. So it looks like I'm caught up on chat. All right. So now that we got the airbrushing and all that stuff. Also, airbrush in a ventilated area. This is paint. You know, paints have toxins in them. You don't want to be breathing all that stuff in. So, which brings me to my next point, is that if you do spray in an open ventilated area, I mean, if it's ventilated or not, mask, 100% mask. Like I'm serious about this. Protect yourself. And I know people at this point are tired of wearing them, and I get why, but swallow your pride and put on a fucking mask. Okay, like seriously, you don't want the paint or anything going into your lungs. All the harsh chemicals and stuff, especially clear coat. Clear coat has a hardener in it, or it can have a hardener in it. And yeah, you don't want all this stuff going into your lungs at all. So you do want something that has like a respirator on it. As you can see, my filters are extremely dirty here on this mask on both sides. I do need to change those out because those are supposed to be like a snow white. And they're supposed to be really pure. But yeah, you want something that has a respirator for sure. But if you just have like one of your standard, like, flu mask, COVID mask, whatever, that works too, to help minimize the particles going into your lungs. You don't want that stuff in your lungs. I cannot stress this enough. If you're going to get into airbrushing and stuff, I will repeat this. If you're getting into this, make sure you get this. And I would honestly suggest, if you have to do it in pieces, so if you're buying like a compressor, then the airbrush and the mask and all that stuff, get the mask first, okay? Just to be on the safe side, so you know you have it, all right? Mask, get one. So yeah, so that's pretty much the entire airbrush setup right there. Now, if you guys are taking a figure apart, I do have these little alligator clips right here, and you can hook a part onto, like this right here, and it holds the part. And then this little black base thing, as you can see, is well loved, well used. Just plugs into the hole, and it keeps it in place. Okay. Now, this is something, that's really, really cool for like drying or painting. So you're not constantly, basically it holds it up. So you don't end up setting the piece down and, messing up the paint job or anything else. This kit, or this piece right here, comes with enough of these alligator clips to fill up every last one of these holes. I don't remember the count. I think it's like 50 or something like that. I got this thing off eBay. It shipped from the US, so that means it came from China. And but yeah, I think it was like $9 if I remember right. Maybe 15 on like the higher end. But yeah, I mean, you can't really go wrong. And what's really cool is with all the different holes and everything, if you have, say, like a bigger piece like this, and you need the alligator clip for it, like that, you can space them. You can kind of put them wherever you want to put them to kind of space them out so they don't bump into each other while the paint's drying and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely highly recommend one of these stands and alligator clips. Now, you can find them on eBay. I typed in Airbrush helping hands, and that's what popped up. That's what I got. And like I said, I want to say I got it for like $9 plus shipping, and I think after everything is said and done, it's like close to about $15. But yeah, they do come in. They also make them where the bases do come in different sizes as well. So you can get one of these that are something like, geez, man, I don't know, like 3 times as long as this one. So, and speaking of alligator clips, now these metal ones are for this one right here. They do make wooden ones that I'm pretty sure more people are familiar with. These wooden ones right here, same kind of thing. Now these usually would stick into like a foam block or something, and just kind of make your own little stand out of something like this, but just out of a foam block. With these you can get for like $2. You can get like 100 of these for like $2. So definitely recommend. Definitely going to need some alligator clips or something, some helping hands of some kind. But like I said, 100 of them for like $2 for these wooden things. You really can't go wrong with that either. And then a foam block from a hobby store is like, I don't know, like $1.50. Now, the downside of that is, your foam blocks, the holes are going to be permanent. And they don't necessarily, you can't reuse the same holes over and over again with the sticks. And trust me, I know how that sounds. But yeah, so you're going to need to constantly get more foam blocks over time, where this one is a more, I guess, like permanent whatever solution where you don't need to constantly buy the foam blocks. Let's see. And according to Raziel Kane, he says, hey, by the way, Studio Series 86 Sludge just went up for pre-order pretty much everywhere. So, man, go grab your sludge, because you know full well Hasbro may say December, but they're going to ship them out in like August, right? That's just how this goes. So yeah, so we went over all the airbrush stuff, and didn't really go over all the airbrush stuff, I guess. Some more, I guess, airbrush tips. This is a knife. That's not a knife. Now, this is a knife. No, it's a cleaner tip. It's just a little metal tip for your airbrush tips. Now, I will say it's possible, like, if you guys can afford multiple airbrushes to do different parts of the job for the figure or whatever, so you can get the figure done faster, that's great. You can less cleanup or whatever. But something I do suggest is to have at least a second tip before your airbrush. So that way, if you're doing multiple colors on a figure, and you need different pieces to be different colors and stuff, you can switch out this, the airbrush tip with a clean airbrush tip and keep going. Just something, little tip that I've picked up, along the way. Stuff to take the figure apart with: screwdrivers of varying sizes and shapes. I think that's pretty much in every customizer's toolbox. Solder pin to solder with, obviously, but to heat up the pins. And this is what I do. I heat up the pins and heat up the side that's gnarled, and then push it through the other side. So yeah, if you got a stuck pin, instead of hammering it out, you guys can just use the solder pin and heat it up and push it out. Now, I will say, a lot of modern day Hasbro stuff, you don't need the pins. You don't need something like this to do that with. The pins are actually, you can just push them out relatively easy. So yeah, more stuff to dismantle everything with, pliers or tweezers of varying shapes and sizes, razor blades, plastic trimmers, maybe you might need a drill, like a little hand drill. Who knows? But yeah, it's all, like I said, it's all varying things to get the figure apart with. Let's see. Raziel Kane says, I would actually be terrified to take a figure apart. I'm so afraid to break them. Look, man, I've broken figures before, and that's something that I wanted to show you guys here. I have this custom kit bashed fly up. Now, this is every helicopter mold. This was a Blade, an Alpha Bravo, and a G2 Vortex, all from Combiner Wars. So this is very little paint on this guy. But something that ended up happening was the backside right here for Vortex. After I put him all back together, it's extremely loose now. It's kind of wobbly. There you go. Yeah, it's extremely loose. And that's mainly because some of the plastic, the way the figure is constructed, is a little bit stressed, and the whole, because of the stress, got a little bit slightly bigger than it should be to be able to hold that pin properly. So now he's just kind of loosey goosey. But I wouldn't be afraid, because stuff like this happens. And if I'm being honest, worst case scenario is I've got, helicopter parts to pick from for this that could match. I could possibly use like Alpha Bravo's white piece, kind of match the legs or the torso or whatever. So it's definitely something to be aware of, but it's definitely something not to be worried about, right? Because a lot of this stuff you take your time with. You never want to rush this stuff or anything like that. And as far as cleanup and everything goes, you guys can see right there, I've got the isopropyl alcohol. That's 91%. I normally don't use 91%. I normally use 99%. Again, when it comes to that stuff, wear your mask. Again, isopropyl alcohol, it's chemicals, it's fumes and stuff like that. You damn sure don't want to be breathing that stuff in. But yeah, I normally go with a 99% because it cleans up a lot better. So 91% means it's 9% water as well. So it's definitely something, and I prefer to have as close to 100% as possible. And that's something that I do suggest, is to get as close to 100% as possible with isopropyl alcohol, especially if you're doing like cleanup or paint stripping. If you're stripping the paint off of a figure, you definitely want to get as close to 100% as possible, because the lower the percentage, the more the water that's in it, and water doesn't really break down paint. So you got to keep that in mind. Masking tape, I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory. Cleaning, again, these are just airbrush brushes that you clean the cup out with and everything else. Always have something to mix your paints with as well, and files to shave down plastic. That's something. Look, guys, paint rub is always going to happen, no matter what you do. Especially if you're doing a transformer, paint rub is always going to happen. It's just a matter of how much you're able to minimize the paint rub, right? So that's where like these files, these clippers and stuff all kind of come into play. Like I said, so test the area first, with a brush, put some paint on that area, and just move the joint and see if the paint rubs off. The paint rubs off, keep sanding until the paint don't rub off anymore. But just remember, take off a little bit at a time. It's easier to take it off than it is put on. So yeah, there's that. What's going on, Big M? Afternoon, everyone. Afternoon to you, Big M. What's up, David Hill? David Hill's in the house. So yeah, that's pretty much all of my equipment. Now I do have multiple like razor blades, multiple tweezers, multiple different brushes. I use brushes for touch-up paints. So to show you guys, like right here, the camera may not pick it up, but there's a line right there that's kind of looks like a ladder. The airbrush wasn't able to get in there, so I'm gonna go in there with some touch-up, some thinned out black, and touch it up. Now, something when you're doing touch-up paint, I will recommend to thin your paint out the same ratio that you thinned it out for your airbrush. So me, I do a 50-50. I do thinner and paint. So like a 50-50 mix. And that's what I'm going to do here when I go in and I touch it up. Because you don't want the paint in certain areas to look thicker. Because what happens is paint stacks, right? So, but the thinner the paint is, the paint kind of fills in the crevice and stuff, kind of like water, kind of filling in a ditch. So that's why you want to do it that way. Trying to see, see right here, this is a better example. You can see the white right there. So I'm gonna have to go in and touch that up. So, see, David Hill says, ooh, making a Delta Magnus, I see. Yes, sir, you would be correct. But yeah, I got, now if you're doing like heavy modification, you're probably gonna need a hand drill to kind of drill in holes, add things, like if you're doing like Wolverine, right? If you're going to do like actual metal claws on your Marvel Legends Wolverine, that this would probably be a good example of when you might need that. Or if, figure repair even, like if you got like, say, on fly up here, like say this wing right here split and broke in half, you could drill into the 2 plastic pieces that remain and put a really thin piece of metal, like a piece of paper clip, and glue it back together, and that would keep that sturdy. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all you're going to need right there if you're going to end up doing this. Now, there are really cheap airbrush solutions on Amazon that go for 30 or 40 bucks. I don't suggest those, if I'm being honest. And it's mainly because there are way better options out there. And this is a way better option than that. Timmy K, what's going on, man? Glad to see you. But there are way better options out there. And I feel like if you're going to spend the money, like the 50 or the 60 or whatever it is on Amazon that they charge, you guys could put that towards the airbrush or the air compressor or something like that to get the better item. Also, and if you guys don't feel like you're ready for this or anything else, thinned out paint on a brush works extremely well as well. Which that will bring me to my next point is paint. Guys, thin out your paint. Now, you don't want it too thin to where it ends up being a wash. You want it thin enough for it to be able to spread evenly. David Hill says, I use an 18-volt Ryobi impact wrench for drilling. I do too. So, let's see. Timmy says, sorry I'm late. I was trying to finish episode 67 of TFT. No, man, you're good, bro. You're good. I appreciate you, Timmy. So right here, you always want to thin out your paints. I have the thinner here in the clear bottle, which it does come in a clear bottle, and the black that I will be touching up the legs on that I showed you guys like 5 minutes ago or whatever, 30 seconds ago, whatever it was. But yeah, always thin out your paints. I use, like I said, it does depend on the company though, but for these Createx and Wicked colors, I use a 50-50 mixture, and that works about 90% of the time. Every now and then, 50-50 is a little too thin. So it might take multiple passes with the airbrush and stuff like that. Maybe like 2 passes. And yellow is notorious for sucking. Like it's a very difficult color to paint with, because it tends to take on the qualities of anything that's underneath it, color wise. So yeah, but anyway, thin out your paints, especially if you're using a brush, because brush strokes are extremely ugly, and you don't want the brush strokes, and you don't want the paint to look just kind of globbed on and thick and stuff like that. Now, I can only give you tips and tricks. It's definitely up to you guys to kind of implement them and be patient with them. I've been doing custom figures for a long time, and this is all stuff that I've learned along the way. So definitely something to keep in mind, that you're not going to master everything or anything, first day. So, but yeah, that is thin out your paints, guys, and find out what works for each paint company. A 50-50 blend may not work for every paint, for every paint company. And there are some paints that can actually be dumped directly into the airbrush that are thin enough to be able to do that with. So there is that as well. But yeah, so thin your paints. Now that we're talking about paints, I guess I can go over what paints I use. So yeah. And Timmy says, Lord Zarek, aka Ultra Marcus, love your stop motions. And yeah, man, I gotta agree with Timmy on that one, dude. I think we all love Ultra Marcus's stop motions. And Timmy also says, and that blast off in the show. I blast off in the show. Let's see. David Hill says, what kind of stream is this? All I hear is strokes and sucking and getting large. Hey man, it's whatever. It's an AMR. Close your eyes and use your imagination. That's the kind of stream it is. So always prime. We'll talk about paints now, I guess. This is the primer that I use. I use a white primer, and really, honestly, it just depends on what I'm going for. But for a lot of my Transformers customs, I want them to kind of blend seamlessly into Hasbro's lineup, especially the Chug stuff. So I use a white primer to keep the colors very bright, vibrant. That's why I also don't do a lot of washes and a lot of highlights and a lot of battle damage and stuff, at least on the Transformers, because I do want them all to kind of blend in seamlessly with each other. So definitely I use a white primer, but you're always going to want to prime, whether you use a primer or some kind of adhesive spray or something like that. So yeah, definitely prime. That's the primer that I use. It is a spray primer. Do light coats with the primer. Like I said, David Hill says, I'm just here to make you laugh and smile. Input, man. I appreciate it. I appreciate it, David. You're always welcome in the live streams, man. Now, different companies that I use, and this might get a little tricky, but Vallejos, game color stuff. I do use a lot of Vallejo paint. I do use the Wicked Colors from Createx. Wicked Colors, man, they live up to their name. I'm 100% serious on that. If you see that Wicked Colors tagline or whatever, secondary name, whatever you want to call it, they're worth it, man. They are extremely, extremely awesome. I mean, they come in pearls and all kinds of other stuff. I do use Citadels. Now, traditionally, I know these are normally brush on, but I do thin these out actually and put them through the airbrush. These are always my second choice as far as colors go, next to Vallejo. And it's mainly just because I like Vallejo's bottle, because it's just, you can put drops in, and that's how I measure my paint. I measure with drops. So like I said earlier, 50-50 is 10 drops of paint and then 10 drops of thinner. But yeah, it's a little bit more difficult to do that with the Citadels. But yeah, anyway. But I thin out the Citadels, run them through the airbrush. I also use Army Painter. Same thing with the Vallejos. Now, the reason why I like these guys is because they do have primer that color matches their paint. So if you're doing like something, I don't know, like say a Shattered Glass Fort Max or something crazy like that size, and you have a certain color in mind, you can actually see if they make the primer in that color first, and you don't have to worry about airbrushing this giant, massive piece, right? You can actually just use the can instead. But yeah, so there's that. And the last one that I've been using here recently is MSP Master Paint. Now this is based here in Texas. It's not a bad paint, and it's okay. That's really all I can say about it. It's not the best paint that I've used. However, it's nowhere near the worst. I would put this as my third favorite paint company, right behind Vallejo and fourth favorite paint company, I guess, right behind Vallejo and Citadel and Warhammer and stuff. So they're not bad. They're already kind of thinned out. So if you're wanting to thin it out even more so, you have to figure out a whole new ratio for this. And the spray pattern on this is, it's not at the coverage on this, I should say, not the spray pattern. The coverage on this is not as good as say like Vallejo or anything else. But it's not a bad choice at all. So let's see. David Hill. Stroke sucking, large pearls. Gosh. Appreciate you, sir. You've been a great friend, even though you didn't come meet me yet. I'll try, man. I'll try. That's all we can do, man, is try, especially in life. But yeah, man, that's pretty much my entire setup and everything that I use. I would definitely say if you guys are using any kind of spray cans to paint, like say a deluxe class Hasbro figure, I would say definitely pull away from that, because and get an airbrush and start switching and use an airbrush, because of the size of mainly it's basically the size of the parts that you're painting, right? You get a lot better coverage with an airbrush because of how small the pieces are versus what you could do with a can. Now, I will say there are people out there, and there's an exception to every rule. Master Gundam Championships, the championship Master Gundam builder, he uses cans from a few years ago, but the guy's technique with cans is incredible. But yeah, like I said, there's an exception to every rule. So if you guys are going to paint a figure like this size, I suggest using the airbrush, air compressor, and all that stuff over a can. Now, like I said, if you're doing something like Fort Max's size, cans work great for coverage because it's a larger surface area, and since cans spray out a larger surface area, they work fine for that. But like I said, for something like this, I definitely would not use a can. If I would, like I said, switch over to an airbrush. Action figure expert, what's going on, man? I am doing great, buddy. Hope everything's good with you. Let's see. David Hill says, hopefully I'll be able to travel again in 2024. Well, man, I hope so, buddy. Hope so. David Hill says he uses spray cans. And like I said, man, there's nothing wrong with spray cans. I started off with spray cans. But it's definitely something I find airbrush gives you a lot more control over what a can does. And can is pressurized, so you can't control the pressure that comes from the can. So you can't control the spray pattern. You can't really get in there and do fine tuning or anything else with the can. So this is like a step up from the can. So I would really highly suggest, David, if grab an airbrush and a setup and do all that stuff, man. Take it to the next level, buddy. Hell yeah. But I've seen your custom work, David. Like, you do some killer stuff, man. I will say, it is amazing, some of this stuff. Full throttle all the time. Who needs control? Yeah, man. Like your G.I. Joe and your Marvel Legends stuff is freaking phenomenal, dude. I will definitely say that. And I've seen some of the stuff you sent to Trans Aaron. Trans Aaron's super proud of that stuff, man. He shows it to me. Shows me the G.I. Joe stuff you send him all the time. So he's really proud to have that stuff. But yeah. I use can primer to spray my stuff, to prime my stuff, but I don't use, I do extremely, I dust the primer on is what I do. I don't coat the entire figure in primer. So let's see. Hand brushing all of your figures. Oh man, awesome. And they're coming out really good, David, for sure. Yeah, man, that's pretty much what I use for everything. It's a really basic setup. I would say after everything is said and done, I mean, I originally got this to do video game console repairs and stuff, so I had this lying around. But a solder pin is relatively cheap. These screwdrivers I've had for 20 years now or something crazy. This screwdriver I got for a couple bucks at a flea market. And so this is probably the most expensive brush I've ever bought. This is like a $15 brush from Citadel. And I mean, I thought it was worth the money. So, but yeah, I mean, everything here, I would say everything that, like all the little pieces and stuff outside of the airbrush setup, you could probably get all of this stuff for maybe like $30, and you could be all in on a complete airbrush setup for maybe about $300 to $400. Just kind of depends on what compressor you get, what airbrush you get and stuff like that. White dusting, that's what got me in trouble. Oh man. What are we gonna do with you, David Hill? What are we gonna do with you? Let's see. But yeah, I mean, it's what masking tape's $1. I mean, Like I said, it's really nothing to get into to start dismantling a figure. It's really nothing to really get into just to be able to start painting the figure. A lot of the cost really comes from when you get into airbrushing and stuff. And then you can have different needles as well, which David Hill's going to take out of context possibly and throw something else out there. What's up, Grand Collector, man? Let's see. He says, I'd love to do airbrushing, but I'm way too cheap, so I stick with spray paint. And see, and that's definitely the plus side to cans, is that I will say, while a can costs, depending on the can, right, will cost $6 depending on the color, the company, yada yada yada. This entire thing cost, whatever it was. I think it's like $6 or $7 for this shade of black. So definitely understand where you're coming from on that one, Collector. So, oh man, that should be celebrated, David. Trying to do better, 4 years clean this April. What's up, man? Awesome, bro. Congratulations. And I will say, like, there's nothing wrong with using cans. I want to make that perfectly clear. I'm not here to bash on cans as far as paint goes or anything like that. Please, if you guys are watching this, do not take my words to mean that, because I don't mean that at all. But like I said, cans are great and you can do wonderful things with cans. It's just what I'm saying is, at the end of the day, you can do a lot more finer details with the airbrush. Let's see. You can never go wrong with Krylon Fusion. That's true. Krylon uses an adhesive in their paint as well. So it's like a self-etching paint. So basically what that means, it kind of it melts a little bit of the plastic for it to really sink in and adhere and all that stuff as well. So but it doesn't damage the plastic, if that makes sense. It just makes enough of like a physical bite for the paint to adhere and adhere properly. Now I will say the Krylon Fusion, I'd be real careful with what kind of plastic you spray that on. Obviously, Hasbro's figures and stuff, they work great. I'm just going to put him here so you guys have something to watch while I talk. But like, say if you're using like say dollar store plastic or something like that, that I would be a little leery of that, because that would possibly eat through the paint and then you'd be left with really, well, a set of legs or whatever would be left. So but yeah, definitely nothing wrong with using cans. Yeah, guys, I mean, I think that'll be it. I think I've covered pretty much everything as far as setup and stuff goes that I use. If you guys have any questions, something real quick too for cleanup, right? If you have like some overspray, something I definitely wanted to talk about. And I've seen people, put that right there. Now I've seen people, if they do like some overspray or something, what they'll do is they'll strip the entire piece, dunk the whole thing back in alcohol, remask, do all this stuff. What I suggest doing, if you guys get these skewers, right? These alligator clip skewers, like I said, 200 for like $1 or something like that. What you can do is take some of the overspray. Like, I don't know if you guys can see that, but I do have a little bit of overspray. Yeah, it's cutting, but I do have a little bit of overspray right here on the top of this little section. But what you can do is you can take the tip right here, and you guys can shape the tip, carve it up, whatever, make a finer point out of it. But you guys can kind of get in and kind of rub it like that and rub the paint off, and clean it up just like that. I'm trying to get there you go. So just like that. And the great thing about using this instead of, say, like a knife or something to scrape the paint off is that wood is softer than plastic. So you're not going to damage the under plastic. You're just going to, you're going to definitely just rub the paint off in a way. So if you're in the middle of doing cleanup on your figure and you forgot to mask a section, or a little bit of paint or something like that got in the wrong place, it's definitely something really easy to fix with one of these wooden skewers. And like I said, they're cheap, man. I'm gonna keep telling you guys that they're super, super cheap. Let's see. Let's get caught up on chat. David Hill says, input, you can always show us your ankles under those Jinko jeans. Well, I can't show you under the Jinko jeans because, you know, it's not 2002 anymore. And I think the fashion police would definitely throw me in prison for that one. The 73-inch bottoms and stuff. Let's see. Greb says, I've only ever used spray cans as when I was young. That's all we had around, as my brother used to do graffiti art in subways. That's awesome, man. I would love if you have pictures of any of that stuff, Graham. That'd be super cool if you send me pictures of that or something. I'd love to see it. I really would. I love graffiti art. Let's see. David Hill says, I've used toothpicks for minor paint over paint coverage. Toothpicks work too. Anything that would be wooden. I've got some smaller, thinner toothpicks, whatever, too, here as well. Kind of get into like finer areas and stuff. Timmy K says, Delta Mag's feet. Yes, sir. Delta Magnus. Actually, I have one. I have two actually completed, and one right now that is currently being put back together. Action figure expert says, no, for me, when it comes to Star Wars, G.I. Joe, Marvel Legends, I've always used a brush with acrylic paint, but for Transformers and vehicles, usually use spray paint. See, David Hill says, you still got them, though. I'm telling all your secrets. I do still have a few pairs of my Jinkos, man, from high school and college and stuff. I do. Totally do. And I will probably never, ever wear them again unless, like, there's some kind of club, like early thousands night or something like that. I used to put my class folders in my back Jinko pocket. Dude, you and me both, man. And I used to, dude, the pockets on those pants, man, they were deep, right? They would go down to like your knees and start at your hip and go down to your knees. I put bottles of like Sprite, whatever, Monster, whatever, and sneak it into class, dude. Question, Mr. Input, can you use any AC? Any acrylic paint with an airbrush like Apple Barrel or AFK or FLK art, or does it have to be a particular kind? As long as the paint is thin enough to get through the nozzle here, okay? As long as it's thin enough, you can put any acrylic paint through it. But I will say, the cheaper the paint, most of the time, the worse the coverage is. So for something like Apple Barrel, you're gonna have to possibly end up doing multiple coats. I do use Apple Barrel paints on like dioramas and stuff, like if I'm using foam or something, because usually foam, like the pink foam, usually needs a couple of passes anyway, because the foam just soaks up the paint. It doesn't really sit on top of the foam. So, but yeah, you can run, as long as the paint's thin enough, you can run it through the airbrush. Now, I don't know what kind of ratio like Apple Barrel something would need as far as thinner and stuff like that. But I will say, general rule of thumb is I will thin my paints down. I say 50-50 because that's what I've, Wicked Colors and Vallejo, that's what I've noticed. But if I'm using an unknown paint, I usually try to get the viscosity of milk. So when I'm mixing the paint with the thinner, so there is that. Let's see. David Hill says the late 90s, early 2000s club nights will be a thing soon. Let's bring it back. Definitely agree. Do you recommend waiting until the weather gets warmer to airbrush these? It's too cold outside in the garage for me. definitely. I usually do all my airbrushing and stuff in the garage. The South Texas, uh, when it gets cold, it's cold for like 3 days, and then it's 110 degrees outside again. It's stupid. But that's why I have the moisture collector right here, because the humidity and the moisture in the air here outside is terrible. So that's why I have that. And if I am airbrushing inside, I usually do it in the master bathroom, because we have this giant overhead fan. I lay down a sheet of plastic. And then I, tape the plastic against the mirror, do what I got to do, and then turn the fan on, and then put my mask on, because you should be wearing a mask when you do this stuff. Wear a mask. Uh, but yeah, if it's something like that, if you can't really get around that, I would definitely, if it's cold outside or something like that, I would probably do thinner layers if you absolutely have to. Let's see. David Hill says, I've been putting a couple drops of water in Appleberry Hill lately for hand brushing. Folk art brand I find needs no water. It's thin already. There you go. Collector says, I have 2 more Scorponok customs planned, but waiting till around April, May, as it's just too cold, especially in London. Yeah. See, the thing is with, if you're using a can, the thing that I've noticed is the paint, it'll stick, but it really doesn't dry at all. It takes forever and ever and ever to dry. And sometimes if it's too cold outside, it'll never fully dry on the bottom area. So you end up running into that problem as well with cold weather. So, like I said, if you absolutely have to, and you're using an airbrush, I would do extremely thin layers, extremely thin, and go slow, and just, and you know what, and grab a space heater too, and put the parts in front of the space heater. Obviously not hot enough to melt it or anything, but hot enough to help the drying and all that stuff. Also, alcohol and Q-tips, some of your best friends out there for cleanup, for touch-ups. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. And if you guys break anything, super glue, right? Super glue is actually a really good thing to modify figures with. You can actually sand this, let it dry, sand it down, and paint it and stuff like that too. So there's a lot of awesome things out there that helps you guys. That would be, that would help, right? Ragil says, I got to run. It's been a great stream. I can rewatch this if I decide to do some customs. Awesome, man. I appreciate that. You have a great day, Raz. And see you next stream. Let's see. Timmy asks, are you going to do some live streams of you actually painting figures? I was actually thinking about it right before I went live here. I was looking at the whole setup, and I said, I've got everything out here. It would be really, really easy to do. I would just need to make like some kind of paint box, whatever, right here to go up against the window. That's like right here that you guys can't see, but it's like right there. Just to have the fumes and stuff be able to get out of the room and out of the house. But I was actually thinking about doing that, yeah, and just kind of keep the customizing kind of like 101 series or whatever kind of going, but kind of do it like that. But yeah, man, it's definitely something I was really, really thinking about before I went live, and I'm been kind of like, it's been in the back of my mind since I've been talking to you guys about it, that it's a possibility that it will probably happen. Like I said, but I just got to get like some kind of box or something right here. And I got to make it, I got to either find one or build one that's kind of collapsible, because this section over here is also my stop motion section. So I would definitely, space is also a factor for that stuff as well. So, or maybe I can just do a live stream from outside, and that'd be like the best lighting ever. Right. So, but yeah, guys, I don't know, man. Other than that, I think that'll do it for this live stream, this video, this explanation of customizing and all that stuff. yeah, if you guys haven't already, if you guys didn't know, hold on, let's see. Collector says, I'd love to see you do a demonstration of you painting a figure. Yeah, awesome. Well, then I'll put another poll up. Why not? We'll do another poll, and if you guys want it, I'll definitely do it. But yeah, I want to say thank you guys for joining in on the live stream. Thanks for letting me ramble on for a little under an hour. Don't forget tomorrow's Tales from Teletran episode 102, where we talk about and review in real time the Transformers anime known as Headmasters. I forgot what it was called for a split second, and I don't know why, but yeah. So yeah, tune in tomorrow at 1 p.m. in the afternoon. That's Central Standard Time. I don't know what it is, Pacific or Eastern or Mountain or any of that stuff. But watch your notifications from YouTube whenever we pop up. And when we pop up, we'll be there. And like I said, tomorrow's episode 102 of Tales from Teletran. And if you haven't already, check out the Patreon. I don't know really honestly what to give out. I kind of suck at this stuff. But there are stickers. I'm not too sure how that works because I let Patreon kind of deal with it. They suggested they deal with it, so I said okay. But yeah, there are stickers. I'm not too sure how that works, but yeah, I'm not too sure what to give out for that stuff. But also, so there's the Patreon plug at the end of the stream. And let me see real quick. David Hill, get caught up on chat. Timmy says, thanks for the great tips. Not a problem, Timmy. Anytime. One day I'm going to have this from David Hill says, one day I'm going to have you do me a custom. Should I sell a kidney and a lung or just one? Well, you can sell both lungs. I don't know, both kidneys. No, I'm messing with you, man. I'm always open, man. I'm always open for like trades and all this stuff. It's not always about money, right? So just hit me up. We can always work something out. We can figure something out. Action Figure Expert says, how many Megatron his tanks are you going to customize? I didn't order one, man. I know I didn't pre-order one. But I don't know. I was actually thinking, I was looking at it and I was really kind of surprised they didn't do more than, because they did it in black. I'm surprised they didn't do it like in blue and red and all that stuff as well. But you know, you never know. They might end up doing that somewhere later on down the road. Collector says, great stream. We'll catch up with what I missed later in one chat, later, Collector. But yeah, and if you guys, where did I leave off? Patreon. Okay. Yes. So yeah, Patreon, plug that. Robot Recruits, check out Robot Recruits. Give the old 1-2 blow to Kapow Toys and head over to robotrecruits.com to check out all your Transformer figures needs. And don't be shy. He does ship to the U.S. So there is that. And also, I know the joke's getting old, but this is all I've got. If you like bacon, because who doesn't love bacon, head on over to tformers.com where you can get a side of bacon with all your Transformers news. So yeah, tired of the drama? There you go. Head on over to tformers.com and I don't know, kick Facebook in the balls. I don't know how to finish that one. Anyway, I don't know. But yeah, thanks for joining me, guys, on this live stream. Stay safe. That's the most important thing. And before we head out like a baby, as Pac would say, if you're doing anything, for real, get one of these, man. If you're going to do airbrushing, painting, get a mask. 100%. I'm going to drill that home. But last tip of the day, get the mask. But yeah, stay safe out there, everybody. Most important thing, take care of yourselves, be good to each other, be kind to each other, all that awesome, good, crazy stuff. And I'll see you guys next time. And I don't know what to say to finish it out. Normally I have some kind of John Cena quote, but I guess I'll go with Arnold Schwarzenegger and say,